What I'm about to say may piss off many women in this world. You know, it's interesting, women and men love makeup. You know, we love the foundations, the blush, and all the wonderful things that come with doing ourselves and dolling ourselves up. But the reality is, according to research by the University of Bangor and the University of Aberdeen, men actually prefer women with less or no makeup. Now that's startling. Women wear makeup to impress men. Men don't like women to wear makeup. Now that got me thinking, do we have many preconceived notions of expectations, of dogma, of beliefs, where we believe others impose on us and we need to act up those standards? Do we have myths that govern our life? Do we have expectations of our parents, our bosses, our siblings, or whatever it is that govern the things we do and govern our behavior? And is that myth a reality? The only people in the world that expect us to be impeccably made up is not others, but it's ourselves. And I think great leaders understand this. They understand that leadership is not holding ourselves to other people's standards, but it's about holding ourselves to our own standards. And so this week, I ask you to explore within yourself. What are things that are holding you back? What are myths? What are traditions? What are dogma that you have in your life that's holding you back from being the leader that you were meant to be? This is Leadership Nuggets with Roshan Thiran, asking you this week to throw away expectations of others and only judge yourself and yourself. Welcome everyone. Welcome to this episode of Leadership Hacks. And over the last couple of months, I've kind of, on a weekly basis, came up with a couple of hacks to enhance, to grow, to enable you to become a better leader. And today I really want to talk about self-discipline. Self-discipline is the only skill required to master any skill, right? And really, maybe I can ask some of you guys, what is stopping you from mastering self-discipline? Share your comments below, and I'm happy to share now, maybe the next 5-10 minutes, a couple of thoughts on self-discipline and why we struggle with it, and maybe what we can do. I'm going to propose 3 steps we can do to enhance, to enable, to master self-discipline. So I'd love to hear your comments below. Share your thoughts, share your struggles, share your challenges. What is stopping you from mastering self-discipline? So let's talk a little bit about self-discipline. One of the things, a couple of years ago, I read this best-selling book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and it's by a guy called Tim Ferriss, and he writes this comment, someday it's a disease that will take your dreams to the grave with you. Someday it's a disease that will take your dreams to the grave with you. Now, how often have we thought about how someday we will start a business, someday I'll join the speakers club, someday I'll improve my presentation skills, someday I'll travel the world, someday I'll write a book, someday I'll learn how to paint, someday I will do this, someday I will get this done, someday I will get that done. We all have our somedays, and somehow that someday, sadly, never comes, right? Someday for many of us isn't a reality. It's a psychological comfort blanket that we let ourselves believe that it's not procrastinating. No, we are not procrastinating. It's someday. Someday I'll get it done. Someday, right? But that day comes and it never happens. It's never the right time. It's never the right moment. It's never, ever that day. But what I'm saying is that day should be today, right? One of the things I found very interesting when I was reading is I read about John Grisham. And John Grisham, I mean, some of you know about him. He wrote a lot of bestseller books. Now, in 1989, John Grisham was actually working as a lawyer in Mississippi when he wrote his first novel, which is Time to Kill. Now, 30 years later, and over 40 books later, he published The Guardian, or The Guardians, right? I think in October 2019. And during this session, when he was promoting the book, he held a Q&A session live on Facebook, and watching it, right? He responds to a question that asked him what's the best advice he ever received, and this is what he told. I thought it was very interesting. He said this to the person asking the question. He said to aim to put out a book every year. This is what the advice he got from a publisher. A publisher told him this: aim to put out a book every year. That's how you'll create a following. And that's it. Every year, just put out a book. And he took that advice And remember, he's the author of Pelican Brief and so many famous books, right, that were made into movies, right? He realized that if I was not writing at least one page every day, I won't be able to write a book a year. So every day I needed to write at least a page or two. If not, a book a year was never going to come out. Now, there are many people who say, someday I'll write a book, someday I'll write that page, someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that, right? But the reality is, we never get about writing. You want to write a book, you got to start with one page. And one page starts with one day, right? And I think Grisham's point is not, I don't think it's to be literally taken literally, but I think his advice is clear. We can think and plan and fantasize for as long as we like, but nothing will develop or grow or be built until we start doing. And I think this is interesting because some might argue that I just cannot be motivated. I just can't motivate myself. They want to achieve a certain goal, but they just can't bring themselves to get started. And I think therein lies both the problem and the confusion. You see, motivation is described as a reason or reasons for acting in a certain way. Now, in wanting to do anything, and having a reason for it, we get motivated. We were already motivated, right? Because I want to do something, and I have a reason for it. Wow, I'm motivated. Now, the only thing that's actually holding us back is not the motivation, right? It's the decision to act, to follow through, to be self-disciplined. And therein lies this thing that I want to talk about. I want to talk about self-discipline. And self-discipline is the differentiation. It's not motivation. Many of us can rile ourselves, oh, I'm very motivated, but we never actually get doing it, because from motivation comes self-discipline. Self-discipline is, it can be a challenge, for many of us. When we're growing up, right? I find it very interesting. When we're growing up, we are disciplined by our parents and our teachers, right? So society actually disciplines us to its norm, and if you don't, you don't go to school, you have some consequences. If you don't do the homework, there's a consequence, right? In the workplace, we actually disciplined by probably two considerations, or two primary considerations. First, if we don't, we work so that we get paid, right? Now, if we don't work, we don't get paid, right? So we have to work. Now, secondly, if we don't perform at our work, potentially we can get ourselves unemployed, fired, and so on and so forth. So there is an intrinsic sort of external force that's motivating us. So most of our discipline actually comes from sources external to ourselves, right? So we work because there's this external force. We don't get paid. We get fired. That's motivating us in school. We have teachers scolding us. We have parents, with a whip, ready to whip us. And most of us actually get our motivation or get our self-discipline from external sources. And unless, right, we've actually created our own ways of developing self-discipline. And you can do this. So some of the kids who join martial art classes, and it's not the parents forcing them. They themselves, I want to learn, I want to grow. Or they learn the piano and say, no, not a mother or father forcing them. That's the external motivation, right? Or external self-discipline. But if there's an internal need, very interestingly, my son, right, a couple of years ago, we forced him to go and learn the piano, and it's like, and he just refused and he cut off. No, I'm never gonna do the piano. Now, a couple of months ago, he came to me and said, and my wife, and said, look, I want to learn the piano. Can you give me a teacher? Because he started learning by himself using the iPad and trying to do YouTube videos by learning the piano. And he said, look, I don't think I'm mastering it. I want to learn myself. Now, that to me, wow, is interesting, because now he's not motivated by a parent forcing him, but he's motivated by an internal force. And to me, that is how you get self-discipline. Now, there are three real ways of developing self-discipline. Right. So, what are these three ways of discipline, of maintaining or developing self-discipline, and which one should you focus on? Right. So there are three ways. I'm going to ask you guys to pick maybe all three or one way, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments on self-discipline. In the meantime, I got a comment from Ting Wei, who says, I guess it's difficult to continue mastering when you cannot see the results that you expected. That's true. But there's some great studies on delayed gratification, because sometimes we know that if you write one page a day, and you don't see it after a month, I've done 2 chapters, But after a couple of months, you start to say, I got 75% of the book done. And you start to see something. So, this is what we call delayed gratification. And sometimes self-discipline, you go to the gym every day. In 1 week, you don't see muscles. But if you keep doing it consistently over months and years, you start to see the results. So you can see the results. And depending on what the topic is, you will be able to see it at some point in time. So the results will come, but it requires you to have that discipline to keep going and going and going. So let's talk about 3 ways you can master self-discipline. So thanks for the question, Timmy. Now, the first point I want to make is whatever you're doing, treat it as a paid job. Treat it seriously, right? So treat it seriously, somewhat like a paid job, right? I think if you do it seriously, it changes. Now, many times a lack of self-discipline comes from, when we have all the time in the world to get something, and there's no real consequence for procrastination, we kind of fail. We end up with lack of self-discipline. Very interesting, Salman Rushdie. Now, some of you know he's a very famous author, and he had an interview with the Harvard Business Review, and he described how he disciplines himself to write. And here's what he says: I always had told myself simply to treat it like a 9-to-5 job. If you have a job you go and do it. It doesn't matter whether you're feeling good on that day or feeling bad. If you're a carpenter, you make the table. I sit down at my desk every day and do my day's work, and my day's work is to write, right? And I do not give myself permission not to do it. And this is interesting, right? When you have sort of a bad feeling and say, look, today I just don't feel like doing it. Today, it's not a great day and I just don't want to do it. No, you need to. I mean, so when you start to say, okay, I want to pick up the piano, or I want to write a book, or I want to be able to finish this product development, or this course, or this curriculum that I'm writing, or whatever it is, right? Even though it's a hobby, even though it's something that you like to do on the side, you want to go ahead and start and say that I want to basically ensure that I treat it like a paid job. Like you're going to get paid, and you will here at some point in time. You get that book out. At some point in time, people are going to buy that book. At some point in time, you're going to get rewarded. People are going to say, wow, amazing, you wrote a book, right? At some point in time, you finish that painting. You see behind me a whole bunch of painting, right? At some point in time, that painting gets sold. And ultimately, that painting, once it gets sold, you get rewarded, right? So it's understanding that it's a paid job, but maybe the payment doesn't come now, the payment comes down the road. So it's important for us to treat all work, even work where we do volunteerism, right? Like we say, I just putting off volunteering, but because I don't get anything out of it. No, you do. You get experiences. You get to update your CV and load it. You say, hey, I went there and I volunteered and I influenced my friends to join my volunteerism and I did this and I gained these skills. Now all these things are maybe not today, but at some point in time going to be useful to you. And so you want to treat everything as if you're going to get paid, as if it's serious, and as if it has repercussions, right? So that's number one. Now, number two, this is a very simple technique, and I have a great video called time boxing that you can watch. And part of time boxing is the second point that I want to make. It's about time boxing, but really it's about using the Pomodoro technique. And Pomodoro, or you want to call time boxing, it's about boxing time. And this is a very simple process, and many people use this process where they say, look, I am going to work and I'm going to calendarize the work. So I'm going to say that, okay, here are the 10 things I need to do. I'm going to work on 2 or 3 things today. And item number 1 is going to require about 2 hours of work. So I'm going to break it down, what the task. I'm going to break it down into 3 or 4 tasks. And task number 1 takes 25 minutes. And so this is task number 1. So I'm going to do 25 minutes. I'm going to work on the task and I'm going to put a bell. At the moment 25 minutes done, I'm done. I'm done for that task. That task should take me about 20-25 minutes. So it should be done. And I make sure I do it right, no matter what. 25 minutes up, the task is over. It must be over. Then I take a break for 5 minutes. And then I go into task number 2, and then task number 3, task number 4, and task number 5. Now, once I finish task number 1 to 4, I should have finished item 1, which is the one item that I need to do for a day. Then I take a long break. I'm done, and I feel good. Wow, I finished one piece. It took me 2 hours, and essentially I've done it in 25 minutes bursts, and now I got 5 minutes breaks in between, and now I can take a 15-minute break, and then I go to item number 2, and I break it down to tasks. 25 minutes, and maybe this one may take 2.5 hours, or maybe 2 hours 15 minutes. So I break it down again to 5, and so I do that task. And when I'm done with that task, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I take a 15-minute break. But in between each task, take a 5-minute break. And so what happens is, now you're organizing your items, breaking it down to manageable tasks, and essentially getting them out of the way. And you're gonna feel good, right? You're gonna feel really, really good, right? And Nirmal, you're using this motivation for my blockchain passion. Absolutely, right? You have this passion for blockchain, and number one, treat it seriously. Maybe today you may not get rewarded; it's just a passion, but down the road you might, right? And likewise, you got tasks to get your execution on all the blockchain projects that you have. Break it down into manageable, achievable 25 minutes bursts of items. Take 25 minutes. Sometimes when we see a task and it's going to be 2 hours to do, we just put it off, we delay it. But when you start breaking it down to 25 minutes, and I'm going to do it, that's it. I'm just going to do 25 minutes of it. This piece A, then I'm going to B, and task C, task D. And then boom, you're done. You're going to feel really good about it. Right. So that's an amount. Thanks for, so that's number 2, time box. You can Google Pomodoro technique, or you just Google, I just put up the link on my video. You can watch that.
Sure.
You can watch that YouTube video over there and be able to get more details on time boxing or the Pomodoro technique. Now, the third and final point, and I don't want to berate myself and take this too long, is remind yourself why you're trying to achieve a specific target or goal. I remember this, when I was in university. I some guy I'm taking Japanese. I'm like, why are you taking Japanese? I met this girl. He's Japanese, and so I want to learn Japanese, right? And because he's very clear of the purpose of why he wants to learn Japanese. He really puts a lot of effort into trying to learn Japanese. He's trying to win the heart of this Japanese girl that he finds very attractive, right? And I think many times when you realize why you're doing it, Nirmal's doing this blockchain because of ABC, and he's very clear, and he's got this passion for it. And when you are very clear on what these goals are, and you set these targets and goals, and remind why are you trying to achieve this goal? What's the why behind these goals? I think if you can do that, right, you are able to be much more self-disciplined, because there's a tangible reason at the end. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm doing this so that I can win this girl's heart. I'm doing this so that I can get that promotion. I'm doing this so that I can get the right skills to be able to upskill myself so that I can get better pay. I'm doing this because it enables me to push out my product in a better way. I'm learning digital marketing. I hate it. Digital marketing is somewhat boring, right? But I'm doing this because it makes sense. To enable me to achieve a bigger goal. And so all these things are extremely important. And this is the 3 key reasons I allude to on why and how you can master self-discipline, right? So with that, right, I will, if you want to read more, you can check out this article on Neuromix.com. 3 ways to master self-discipline. You can read that. You can watch the video on the Pomodoro technique, which I posted both on YouTube. You can see it in the comment section, or also on Facebook. You can see that in the comment section, and we'll post it also on LinkedIn to make sure that those of you from LinkedIn will be able to get access to that video. Just go into YouTube, type time boxing and my name, and you should be able to get access to that video. So with that, if there's any questions, if there's any thoughts, thank you so much for your time, Nirmal. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to having more conversations and more hacks that you can do in different parts to enable you to become more productive, more efficient, to be able to execute better, and ultimately to become the leader that you were meant to be. Here's me wishing all the best in your leadership journey, and keep growing, keep driving, and keep impacting the world and keep going mad, making a difference and making this world a better place. Thanks, Eva, and thanks to all of you for watching. Goodbye for now, and see you next week in Leadership Hacks.
Learning is at the heartbeat of growth. What is leadership?